Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I've been making some videos, but I have been super busy with freelance work and I've just been working. I guess it's a good thing that I'm working this much, but I know that I don't get into the studio and do these videos like I should be, and I've got a ton of ideas and I've got a lot to do on this channel, but I just have not been able to make the time, so I apologize for that. But I'm back, I'm doing a video today, and I'm very excited about what we're going to talk about today because I have finally got my hands on the new x100VI. If you watch this channel at all, you know that I'm a huge fan of the x100V. I've been using it for about 4 years. I have done all kinds of things with that camera, from stock photography to travel photography. I shoot it at weddings. I've even done some commercial work with it. Absolutely love the V, but now I've got my hands on the VI. I made a point to get the silver one. I don't mean to be weird. I know that a lot of X100 users kind of fall into that almost cultish, thinking, with the little accessories and all the things people like to do to them. My only real thing is I like the silver one better than the black one. I just like the vintage look. So I made a point to get the vintage one. I've been on the list from day one, and I finally got it the other day. Now I'll say it again, I've said it many times before, I'm not really a review channel. I don't just get the latest, greatest camera and talk about it and tell my opinions of it, but I do talk about the cameras that I like to use, and the X100 is a big part of my workflow. Not on a daily basis necessarily, but it's certainly a big part of what I do. Travel, stock. I'm not shooting a lot of weddings this year, but if I'm at a wedding, it is definitely part of my wedding arsenal. So I like to talk about the cameras that I use on a regular basis. So first and foremost, right out of the gate with the X100VI, I'm going to do a little review, and let me do a little rant if you guys don't mind. If you watch YouTube at all, one of my complaints or one of my pet peeves about camera reviews are, have you ever noticed that like a YouTuber will get the camera and all they'll really do is just kind of walk around town taking pictures of trash cans and mailboxes? It reminds me of when I took photography classes in junior high school and we would learn to load the film, and then we'd all kind of awkwardly walk around the parking lot taking pictures of tires. That's not the kind of review or the kind of video I want to create talking about a piece of equipment that I use. So rant over, that's just me. But I am going to first and foremost take this as a travel camera. We are heading to one of my favorite places in the country, one of my favorite cities. We're going to Charleston tomorrow. So I'm going to take it for a little 3-day trip. I'm going to put it through its paces and, try to do a little bit of stock photography, some travel photography, take it everywhere I go, and we're going to see how it does. Now, being that I've used the X100V for about 4 years, this camera is not that much different physically. Now, it feels very similar. It's going to be very similar as far as walking around with it, using it, I think. But there's a few major changes, and the things that I'm going to be excited about seeing and interested in seeing is, first and foremost, 40 megapixels. The X100V had 26, this has 40. I wasn't really excited about that when they announced it because I just don't know that I need 40 megapixels. 26 seemed to be a really nice size file, met my needs, did really well. So am I going to like 40? I'm not sure. I'm a little concerned about the storage space and stuff like that, but we'll deal with that. It's just, do I need that big of a file on a regular basis? Now, the other thing is the in-body stabilization. That is something that they have added to the X100VI. I don't even have a battery in this camera yet, and I can kind of feel it. Every once in a while when I move it just right, you can feel the stabilization in there. It still feels very solid. This, there's nothing cheap about this camera, but I felt it just a little bit ago as I was kind of moving it around. Now, I didn't think I needed in-body stabilization. With the X100V, I never had an issue. But with my X-T4, I've got the stabilization, and I will tell you, I really like it. I'm amazed how many pictures turn out tack sharp when maybe I was at a little bit slower shutter speed. So I may like it more than I think that I will, but we'll have to see. Between the 40 megapixels and the stabilization, those are the two biggies that I'm really looking forward to trying out and seeing how much better it is. And then the third thing that's an interesting thing to me is that this camera was made in China, where the other ones were made in Japan. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Right out of the box, it still feels solid, but I like to know that this camera is going to do what I need it to do on a regular basis, and that the build quality is still what it always was before. So yeah, stick around for this video. Next 3 days we're going to be in Charleston. We're going to be taking some pictures of probably one of the prettiest cities in the country. If you haven't been there, I would highly suggest going there. I've been there several times, looking forward to
till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust.
Alright guys, I made it to Charleston. Love this town. If you've never been to Charleston, South Carolina, I highly suggest you go. Weather's great. It's actually a little bit hot, but hey, we're at the beach basically, and it's lovely, absolutely wonderful. Now, one of the reasons why I chose to talk about this camera in Charleston is because I think one of the #1 things that people do with this little X100 is they use it as a street camera, a travel camera, something that they can carry around easily. It's not huge and cumbersome, but it is a great camera to just take wherever you go. So what I have done is I put a strap around it, carry it around my neck. It is not heavy enough that it is a burden. Even on a hot day when we probably walked 2 or 3 miles today, it never was a hindrance. Easily able to pull the lens cap off, flip it on, and shoot. The initial feel for this camera when I was out and about and there was noise around me, this camera is amazingly quiet. It seems to be more quiet than the V. The V had a little click to it when you'd shoot, and you'd hear those leaf blades clicking. This one you sort of can hear, but it's definitely quieter, and I don't know if that's... they did something different. Supposedly it's the same lens, but it is definitely quieter, and I'm not sure I loved that, because when I was out taking pictures, I kind of like to hear a click and know that I took the picture. It was almost so quiet that I wasn't sure, did I take it? And I would check to make sure I got the shot that I just thought I had taken. And I had. Came back here and made sure that I had it on mechanical shutter, because I thought maybe if I've got it set to electronic shutter, that's why it's so quiet. But I did have it on mechanical shutter. So that's just a matter of getting used to it, I suppose. But it is super quiet. Great camera, no problem with focusing. I had it on the zone focusing, which in the past with my V, I've had it on just a single spot. I left it on zone. I thought I would just try that. That seemed to be effective and a little bit interesting because it would grab different things, but it always seemed to grab an appropriate thing to focus on what I was taking a picture of. So I liked it. So I took a couple of shots at a 15th of a second when we went inside a church, and I'll show you those pictures here. To show you the in-body stabilization, how well it did with that. Walking around today, I could not hear or feel the in-body stabilization doing its thing, so it wasn't even a factor. It wasn't even something I even noticed, so no big deal there. Just one little side note for those of you who have never shot with an X100, it's got a 23mm fixed lens. You don't change the lens, and for what it's worth, I really like that about the camera. It forces you to think outside of the box. You got to move in, you got to move back, you got to compose a little bit differently, and it just kind of forces you to think outside of the box and not be lazy, which I don't know about you guys, but I tend to get a little lazy if I've got a zoom lens where I can just zoom in and out without actually physically moving. So I've got a couple more days here in Charleston, and we're going to continue to just sightsee and do different things. And yeah, so far so good. Enjoying the camera a great deal. The shooting experience is very similar to the V, so I'm not feeling a great deal of difference with it as far as the actual shooting experience. So tomorrow I'm going to play with a few film simulations, which is kind of not my normal. I don't usually mess with those, but I think I'm going to try that tomorrow, and we'll dabble in that a little bit. Let's go on to day 2.
And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on
morning of day 3 down here in Charleston, and I apologize if I'm jumping around a little bit or I repeat myself. I'm doing this video in stages over the 3 days that we're down here, and so I may repeat myself. I apologize. But I was going to say that one of the things that is kind of neat when I do these little road trips and things, when I do photographs of an area and I send them in for stock, they tend to do pretty well, and we've had success with bridge shots. The Ravenel Bridge down here in Charleston is kind of a famous landmark, and so I've shot it before. I've sent it into stock agencies, and it's one of those images that will consistently sell. So this time as well, we went there, did kind of the touristy thing, but took those iconic view shots of the bridge. Now this time, using the x100VI, I decided to play around with the film simulations, which I realize is, kind of sacrilegious if you're a Fuji user. I know the film simulations are a big deal for Fuji people, and I've just never got into them. I've always shot raw and then done whatever I wanted to do the images later in post. But this time I kept putting it on acros. I didn't try a lot of the different ones. I went to the black and white. I like the red filter. Makes my blue skies go really dark, and so that was neat. I've been playing with that. So I shot raw plus JPEG. I believe what I'm going to end up getting when I get back to the computer is I'll have a nice raw file, and then I will have that acros version. So that's been kind of fun, and we'll continue to do that where I find it's appropriate, where I want to do the black and white, and maybe eventually I'll branch out to some of the other simulations. We'll see. I don't know, but that was something I did differently. We were at the USS Yorktown yesterday. That was really neat. Some neat vantage points of the harbor, and just had a good time. But the other thing I wanted to talk about with the camera was 2 full days of shooting. I had the LED screen in the back going. Often I'll turn that off if I'm trying to save battery life. But I had that going. 2 full days of shooting, and I wore the batteries out last night. I had to put new batteries in for day 3. But 2 full days of shooting. I don't know, I probably shot 300 or 400 shots. I'm not exactly sure how many I did, but that's decent battery life. And one of my hopes for the new version of this camera was a bigger battery, and they didn't do it. But battery life wasn't too bad, so that's all good. We're going to do some more sightseeing today before we head home. Big thumbs up for the camera. Interestingly enough, which I usually get when I was carrying around my x100V, I would get people that would approach me. Haven't had anybody approach me. So for now, that's about it as far as notes on the x100. Still love this.
Through the highways till my shadow turns to sun rays, and on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll
So I'm back from Charleston. I love going to Charleston. What an amazing place. Like I said before, if you've never been to Charleston, that has got to be a city that you put on your bucket list. If you like history at all, it is just corner to corner history. If you just like pretty cities near the ocean, it's got all that as well. So we had a great time. The weather was fantastic, and I really could not have asked for anything better in terms of just a 3-day quick little trip. Now, as far as the Fuji x100VI, doesn't disappoint. Just like the V, it just was a flawless camera to use and to carry around. The battery life was something that I was a little bit unsure of because they put the IBIS in the camera body, and I thought maybe that's going to eat up the battery a little bit more. I had the back screen running the whole time. and I did not run out of batteries for 2 solid days. It wasn't until the 3rd day that I had to put a new battery in. And then the other thing that I was doing, I was shooting RAW plus JPEGs, which I don't normally do. I normally just shoot RAW. I was doing both so I could play around with the film simulations. I would think that would eat up batteries a little bit more as well. So in terms of battery life, I saw no difference from the V to this one. Yeah, it didn't eat batteries any more than my V would. Okay, so a big thumbs up to the battery life, and maybe a bigger battery wasn't really a need. Now in terms of 40 megapixels, that was another big thing for me. I just, that's a big jump from 26 to 40. And really my concern was, do I need 40 megapixels? Is that really a need in my workflow? And of course, if you've got bigger files, that means you've got more storage needs and stuff like that. To be honest with you, I will zoom into a couple of these images here. They look fantastic, but I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that the jury's still out a little bit in terms of 40 megapixels being a big deal. I'm not sure. The files look great. I'm not really into cropping too much, at least not on a normal basis. So having a bigger file that I can crop into is going to be nice occasionally, but not most of the time. Most of the time I fill the frame and use the whole thing. So like I said, jury's out on the 40 megapixels. The files look crisp and clean and beautiful, but I don't know if I saw a huge difference. And I certainly at this point, with only the first 3 days, don't see it being so much better that, wow, this is a big selling point. Now, speaking of the in-body stabilization, when you pick up the camera, I think I said this when I started this video, you can feel it moving around if you move the camera just right. However, I didn't notice it when I was shooting. I was walking around all day, inside, outside. I thought maybe as I was shooting I would feel it moving and that would be something you'd have to get used to. Honestly, I didn't even really notice that. So the in-body stabilization worked well. I actually thought it wasn't all that great when I was actually looking at the back of the camera, but when I looked at some of the images up close, they look pretty darn sharp. So overall, first 3 days, loved it, just like I loved the V. I'm gonna have a hard time deciding what I'm gonna do because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking keep one, let the other one go. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Loved it. Certainly going to do a whole lot more with the VI in videos to come. Got a lot of things I want to do with it. Gonna shoot a lot of images with it for sure. Now, I wanted to tell you all the images I've shown up till now straight out of the camera. I did do the film simulations. I always did the Acros with the red filter. Just loved the way that looked. I didn't play with a lot of the other ones. But up until now, everything straight out of the camera. I'm going to end this video showing some images that I thought were probably the best of the best. I tweaked them ever so slightly and gave them a little contrast, a little vignetting, played with them a little bit so they're not straight out of the camera. I'll leave you with those. But if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you think about subscribing, I would appreciate that as well, as always. And I love your comments. So leave me a comment. If you've got the X100 of any stage, the VI, the V, whatever, let me know what you think. If you got questions about the camera, let me know that too. Anything you'd like me to talk about in the future, anything, really. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.
We'll grow in number, fuel